Hey, what's up? Hello! Welcome to another video. As you can tell by the title, we are going to be doing some meal prep today. Ooh, girl, I'm excited because I love me a good meal prep. I want to show you my meal prep, what I meal prep, and kind of just, share some tips when it comes to meal prepping to make it a little bit easier for you. I know a lot of people get kind of overwhelmed with it, and I do understand. I felt so overwhelmed with it in the beginning as well, but just like anything else, it gets easier as you keep doing it and kind of make it a little bit more of a habit for yourself. When it comes to meal prep tips, that is definitely number one. Put it and make it a part of your routine. So you have a somewhat weekly and daily routine, right? Just put meal prep in your routine, right? Like you're in a routine with going to the gym, going to work, going to school, all of these things. Just make meal prep another one of those things that you do. So set aside the same day every week and a little bit of your time that day to get some food cooked and ready for yourself. That way you don't have to spend time cooking it throughout the week, It's kind of just like you cook it all once and you're done and you don't have to worry about it, which I'm all about. So most people probably meal prep on a Sunday. I feel like that's the universal meal prep day. It's when I typically meal prep, just to kind of prepare for the new week and Monday ahead. And that is definitely what I suggest. So when it comes to meal prep, there's no right or wrong way to do it. You have to consider your life and what you have going on, where you are for most of your meals and what you are currently doing for those meals. How can you improve them? Is it the quality that's suffering? Are you just like not eating at all? Are you just bored of your meals because you go to the same deli or whatever every day on your lunch break at work? There's going to be differences between everybody's meal prep with just what they need to have on hand. Personally, like I never meal prep a breakfast because I have time in my morning to dedicate to making one, whereas majority of people I feel like would benefit from a meal prep breakfast because you're running out to work or school in the morning, and so having something that you can grab and go is going to be really helpful. So let's get this party started. Okay, so when it comes to meal prep, y'all, I prefer to have different food sources on hand, about 3 to 4 different food sources for, my macros, so that I don't get bored with my meals, and I can also mix and match the food sources I prepare. So protein for the week is beef, turkey, and chicken. In terms of carbs, we got red potatoes, sweet potatoes, and some jasmine rice. And then of course our veggies, which are Brussels asparagus and broccoli, my 3 favorite ones. Okay, so when it comes to meal prep, this is tip number 2, and that is to start with the foods that take the longest to prepare and cook. So as you see, I am starting with my sweet potatoes, and I do prefer to put tin foil down. You obviously don't have to, but it just makes the cleanup process a little bit easier and quicker. So that's why I always do that. Now, I think personally, I make the best sweet potatoes in the entire world. That is not an exaggeration at all. When I first met Sam like 3 years ago, he hated sweet potatoes because he overate sweet potato casserole with the marshmallows on Thanksgiving one year and was like, just refused to eat them. But he eats them now, thanks to me. So if you enjoy sweet potatoes or don't enjoy sweet potatoes, try this because it's either gonna make you love them even more or fall in love for the first time. So I cut them up and I dice them relatively big, and then I put salt, pepper, and barbecue seasoning on them. That's the secret ingredient right there. I usually use regular barbecue from McCormick, but I bought the sweet and smoky flavor, and I have to say, it's just next freaking level. So I put those into the oven at 420, I think 420, 425, whatever, 420 degrees, and then bake them in there for about 45 minutes, but definitely keep your eye on them. And then after the sweet potatoes are done and prepped and ready and in the oven, I do the other potatoes, which were red potatoes. So again, diced them, cubed them up relatively big, and put some Italian seasoning and salt and pepper on them. And then I threw those in the oven as well. Now, when it comes to meal prep, if you don't have an Instant Pot, I feel really bad for you. I really, really do. I remember meal prepping rice the old-fashioned way, and it takes long. It's like a 20 to 30 minute process, and now with my Instant Pot, rice takes literally 10 minutes flat. Done, perfect rice every time. So definitely invest in one if you do a lot of meal prep or eat a lot of rice. So I started the rice early with the potatoes because Sam and I wanted to use the Instant Pot to make shredded chicken as well. So I got the rice started early, that way it was done rather quickly and I could get the chicken started. So I set the timer and, you know, whatever, the rice cooks kind of on its own. And then after the potatoes and the rice were in the oven and, you know, on their way, I started with the veggies. So asparagus, cutting up some broccoli. I just like, you know, I cut the stems. I don't really like the stems, so I try to cut off as much as I can of them, and then again I just threw them in the same pan with the asparagus, and then I also cut up some Brussels. So I just cut the Brussels in half. I cut the bottoms off and then I cut them in half, put them in a pan, and oh goodness, they just look so beautiful. They look so freaking beautiful. Love fresh veggies. I sprayed them with some avocado oil and salt, pepper, garlic powder. And this is going to be tip numero 3 or maybe 4. I literally don't even know what number I'm on already. What I like to do when it comes to meal prep, because it gives me a little bit more freedom and it also just makes the process itself easier, is to just meal prep things in bulk on their own. So I am meal prepping all of the staples, right? Potatoes, rice, veggies, my protein, the foundation of the majority of my meals. And with that, I'm able to mix and match as opposed to, you know, making all of this food and then divvying them up into Tupperwares like right away and portioning things out. I don't do that. I just store, you know, all of the rice in one big container, all of the sweet potatoes in one big container, etc., etc. So one other thing that I do, which is kind of like a macro tracking tip, but if you are tracking your macros and do struggle to hit them consistently, I highly suggest pre-planning. So this is what I do. I've been tracking my macros for 6 years and I still pre-plan. And I will spend, you know, 10 minutes the night before plugging all of my meals into my MyFitnessPal so that when I wake up in the morning, like, I don't have to think about it. My food's already planned, meals are already straight away, and all I have to do is, you know, put those meals together and eat them and my macros are hit. I don't even have to think about it. So that is the reason, however, I like to just meal prep things kind of like on their own, and I don't make recipes. I don't make meals like right away. I don't portion them out because, I don't know, maybe one day I want to eat more rice and less sweet potatoes or vice versa, you know? So just having the food in their own containers, I can kind of portion them out with what I need for that meal at the time that I need it and based on my preference as well. So that makes it easier for me, and hopefully that makes it easier for you. So after I put the veggies in the oven with the potatoes, by that time the rice was basically done, which is awesome, I'm telling you. Buy an Instant Pot, please. And then I started getting to work on my protein sources. So these are the spices I used for the ground turkey, and I know cinnamon might seem really freaking weird, but it's really freaking good. I'm telling you, the combination of those spices is like top notch. And I buy 99% lean ground turkey, and so it doesn't really taste like much. Like, you really need to season the crap out of it. And I actually put cinnamon on it by mistake once, and it has just been a thing ever since because it actually tastes that good. So try this little medley of spices if you're making ground turkey. And I really just, you know, I cook it in a pan on top of the stove as normal, nothing too fancy or special here. And then after the rice was done and I cleaned that pot out, Sam and I put in some chicken breasts. What's up? So I am interrupting the meal prep video to bring you this little mini lesson in prepping rice in bulk. When I first started tracking my macros, I honestly just avoided eating rice because I like didn't know what the frick to do with it. So I do totally understand why you might think it's confusing. You know, a quarter cup of dry rice does not equal a quarter cup when it's cooked. It's like double, triple in volume, you know? So how do you measure that? Because 45 grams of dry rice is going to be more when it's cooked because it has absorbed water. However, it is important to realize that one serving of rice and the macronutrients that come with one serving of rice is going to be the same macronutrients and the same, you know, nutrient profile that one serving of cooked rice has. So one serving of dry rice might be 35 grams of carbs, and one serving of cooked rice is going to be 35 grams of carbs. However, the actual amount that they weigh, like on your food scale, is going to differ because the cooked version has extra water weight in it. So I'm going to show you a quick little method to figure out what one serving of rice equals when it is cooked, so that you can, you know, obviously track rice accurately and not be scared to meal prep it anymore. So I'm just going to zoom this in a little bit. Hopefully you can see that, but I will obviously walk us through it. So typical rice, jasmine rice per se, or like basmati rice or plain white rice, you will see on the package that one serving of rice is 1/4 cup dry, which is about 45 grams. I think it's usually 45 grams. So 45 grams of dry rice is one serving, which is always about 35, 36, you know, carbohydrates. So that's a fact. It might vary slightly if your rice is a little different, you know, maybe it's like 47 grams of, you know, rice, whatever. That is pretty much straightforward, and that isn't going to change. So here's where things will change and where you want to pay a little bit more attention. So you decide to cook 2 cups of dry rice, right? And you need to measure that out because you need to know how much water to add. Rice is, you know, like an exact ratio of, you know, water to rice. So you need to measure out the 2 cups. I do suggest using your food scale though, which would be 360 grams. So if 1/4 cup is 45 grams, then 1 whole cup is going to be 45 times 4, which is 180. And then 180 times 2 is 360. So 2 cups of rice equals 360 grams, and that's 8 servings. So you decide to cook those 2 cups of dry rice. You cook rice normally. There's no special way to cook it. You cook it however you cook it. And then when the rice is done, you have to let it cool. You don't want to weigh it out until it's cooled because it will decrease in weight as it cools. So you want to let it cool. After you let it cool and you measure how much cooked rice in total you have, you find out that, and this is just an example, I don't know what it will actually equal, but it'll equal, say, 900 grams of cooked rice. So 360 grams of dry rice turned out into 900 grams of cooked rice. So now remember, you made 8 servings. You made 8 servings. 8 of these. So really, all you have to do is now take your total amount of rice that you have and divide by 8, and that is going to be that is going to give you 112.5 grams of cooked rice that is now equal to 1 serving, which is still equal to 35 grams of carbs. So it's like 45 grams of dry rice basically just absorbed all the water, and now it equals 112.5 grams when it's cooked. This might almost seem like too simple, right? But this is accurate. This does work. And I will show you a little bit more of an in-depth way to do it that does involve like a little bit more math, but it will prove to you that this is still the right answer. You weigh out 360 grams of dry rice, right? You weigh that out and you know that that's how much dry rice you're making. You go through the rice cooking process, you cook it, and it equals 900 grams of cooked rice, right? That's really all you need to know, is how much of dry rice you have and how much it comes out to when it's cooked, because then what you can do is simply set up a little cross multiplication proportion type thing and do dry over cooked, and do, okay, you know what, I started with 360 grams of dry rice and that came out to 900 grams cooked. I want to find out how much 45 grams of dry rice is when it's cooked. So then again, you cross multiply and you will come to find that it is 112.5 grams of cooked rice. So I hope you liked a little whiteboard chat about rice. I hope it made some sense and a little bit more clarity has been given to you when it comes to meal prepping rice in bulk. Again, it's really quite simple, and the number one thing to remember is that although the actual weight of the rice will change from dry to cooked, the actual macronutrient breakdown and nutritional profile of the rice is not. So while one serving, which is 45 grams, might be 90 grams cooked, it still contains the same amount of proteins, carbs, fats as the dry rice, because they're both one serving. And one serving of rice is one serving of rice. It just weighs more or less because of the cooking process. So that is that. And now let's get back to the meal prep video. So shredded chicken is just a really easy way to, spice up any regular old chicken breast, and what we do is put in a little bit of chicken stock, a jar of salsa verde, and then a can or like half a can of diced jalapenos, and then cook it in there. I think it took like maybe 20 minutes. And you cook the breasts whole and then shred them when they're done. And so yeah, this shredded chicken, again, the Instant Pot's amazing. This took 20 minutes as opposed to like 8 freaking hours in a crock pot. So really good, and just another way to kind of spice up your everyday boring chicken, Ground beef was the other a protein source that we decided to meal prep for the week, and we decided to make this just like taco meat. So we used a chipotle taco seasoning. Sam cooked it on the stove top right after the turkey was done, and that was that. So I like to buy lean meat. You don't have to buy lean meat. Obviously, if you were to buy a fuller fat ground turkey or ground beef, it would taste better and have more flavor, but I am kind of weird and I just prefer my fat sources to come from like a separate food source and not my protein source. I don't know. Call me crazy, whatever. If you like higher fat meats, that's totally fine too. There's nothing wrong with them at all. But I want to talk to you right now really quick, and I promise it really is going to be quick. There's really not much to it. It's very simple. But how to track cooked meat, right? Because you know that basically all meat kind of shrinks when it's cooked, right? It loses some of its weight and some of its volume. And so 4 ounces of raw chicken is not going to be 4 ounces of cooked chicken. It's not. You have to be aware of the entries you're using on MyFitnessPal if you are tracking. And if it says, raw chicken breast and you put in 4 ounces, but the chicken you're eating is actually 4 ounces of cooked chicken, it's not accurate. That's not accurate at all. What you want to remember is this: 4 ounces of raw chicken or raw beef or raw turkey or raw pork or whatever raw meat it is going to be approximately 3 ounces cooked. So it loses about 25% of its weight when it's cooked. And that is kind of just like a universal measurement, and it's what I do. So I cooked all of this protein obviously in bulk ahead of time. I didn't like weigh out every individual piece of chicken that I cooked. And so then when I weigh it out, I weigh out 3 ounces and I know that it's about 4 ounces cooked. Now, of course, when the things are done cooking, you want to put them and store them in Tupperware. I wouldn't put them in there when they just come right out of the oven because, I don't know, the heat and the steam and the plastic just doesn't seem very safe to me. I don't know. Maybe it's fine, it's just not something I do. So I pretty much let all the food cool and then put them into Tupperwares, and then before I put them in the fridge, I make sure they are completely cooled. And you want to make sure to do that because taking hot food and putting them in the fridge can cause them to kind of like go bad or form some bacteria and things like that. Also, when you are weighing out your food, you want it to be cooled. You don't want to weigh it hot and with like steam still in it. As the steam dissipates, it actually will kind of lower the weight. So, you know, I've done that before with like a baked sweet potato. It's like I take it out of the oven and I put it right on top of my scale. And then, you know, if you were to come back an hour later or something, like it wouldn't be the same weight. So if you're weighing things, weigh them when they're cooled. Now, after all that, you know, obviously the veggies are done. Look at how beautiful the veggies are. They look so freaking good. They look so good. Next thing that I got going was the chicken breasts. So obviously you saw that we made a whole big pot of shredded chicken. So I only have 3 little tiny chicken breasts that I'm going to grill. But again, seasoning them very basic with salt, pepper, and this like everyday whatever seasoning. And then so that way when I am mixing and matching my meals throughout the week, I can add different seasonings, you know, maybe add some soy sauce or some like balsamic dressing or something and not have flavors clash, you know. So I love doing my meal prep this way with just cooking the basics and the staples and then not actually forming meals until, you know, like the night before, and then dressing them up and mixing and matching so that I'm never bored of my meals. Now this indoor smokeless grill, my friends, is another appliance that you freaking need if you meal prep, because my mom got me this for Christmas this year and it is a lifesaver. So there's no smoke, it's smokeless, and it's an indoor grill. I have no idea how it works, it's magic, but it's absolutely freaking amazing and I am blown away by this grill every single time. I mean, seriously, just wait. Look at those grill marks. Look at those grill marks. How is that even real? I don't know, man. It just seriously impresses me. Maybe it's not that impressive to you, I don't know, but I also think that this grill is under $100. I think it was at one point, so I have it linked below on Amazon. Maybe the price changed, but it was below $100, so highly suggest. Also, there is never a dull moment in our house, so yeah, that's all the potatoes. All of the potatoes I made. The oven, like trays or whatever those things are called, like the oven, I guess they're a tray, right? What is that called? The things that you pull out of the oven and you put the pan on top of, yeah. So they're really freaking slippery and I like pushed it in and the pan just went sliding off of it and fell into the back of the oven. So I made Sam literally pick them all up, but yo, they came out freaking good. Look at those crispy red potatoes. Oh my goodness. So we baked them in the oven for probably like 40 minutes-ish, and then we broiled them under the broiler for about 10 minutes, maybe, probably less than 10 minutes, just to crisp them up a little bit. So guys, that is pretty much my meal prep. Here you can see all of the foods that I've made: red potatoes, sweet potatoes, and the taco beef meat stuff, chicken, turkey, my little mixed veggie medley, and rice. Oh, and of course the shredded chicken and the cleanup. Woo! Nice and quick. So when it comes to meal prep, what I suggest doing, this is tip number 5, 6, 7, 8, I don't even know anymore. You want to clean up as you go. I used to just throw everything into the sink and like clean it up after, and it's just so annoying because there's so many bowls and pans and utensils and just so many things, you know? So clean up as you go. The minute that I'm done with something, I literally clean it. And so that way it can dry, I can put it away and then clean other stuff, and so I'm not like overwhelmed. And the other tip I have for you is to multitask. When it comes to meal prep, multitask. You know, this whole entire meal prep probably took me 2 hours, including my cleanup, and it wasn't like I was just sitting there watching food cook for 2 hours. Like, I got work done on my computer, I did and picked up laundry at the little, you know, apartment laundry thing that they have. Like, I got other things done. I didn't just like limit myself to meal prep, you know. I know people are busy, I know you have a lot of stuff going on, we all do, but if you can prioritize this and, like I said, set aside maybe 2 hours on a kind of low-key Sunday to hit the grocery store, pick up some staples, and just get them cooked and ready for your week, I mean, it's going to make it so much easier for you to stick to your goals, stick to your diet, make healthier choices, and, you know, just ensure that you're eating good quality foods, you know. going out to eat and estimating your macros or whatever and tracking when you're out to eat is not a bad thing at all. I do it literally like all the time. The only thing is that you just like, you never know like how people are cooking in terms of like sanitary and hygiene, and also like what they're putting in the food and like how much oil and butter and things is it laden with, you know? So every once in a while, like it's not a bad thing to go out to eat. Like I said, I do it all the time, but the majority of the time, you know, you don't want to always be eating out and getting food from places that like you have no control over, you know, and you also don't have any control over the quality. So at least if you're going to the grocery store, you're picking out the foods that you're buying, you know what's going into them. And again, like I said, you know, it just ensures that your diet is that much more, you know, quality. A little quality control never hurt anybody. All right, friend, well, that is that. I hope you enjoyed the meal prep video. I hope you got some new tips for your own meal prep. Maybe it motivated you to get into the kitchen to actually meal prep this week. I'm serious, meal prepping has saved my life more times than not. I mean, seriously, you know how hangry you get when, you know, you're either out running errands or just getting home from work at the end of the day and you don't want to wait to eat. You don't want to wait to cook. Nobody wants to do that. Not even me. No matter how much I love food and nutrition, I don't want to cook. I don't want to waste my time doing that. So meal prep, baby. Meal prep. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it helped and gave you some clarity, especially when it comes to meal prepping rice. And I'll catch you in the next video.